So, I have partially read this comment, but I'm going to go ahead and read this entire thing to you, and I'm going to respond to it after I read the entire thing. And there's a very specific reason why. The comment goes like this. The topic is time and causality. This might be too long to read as a question, but through many of my experience, it has become my understanding that time, as we know it, is not fundamental to the wider function of the universe, though it seems to be quite an important element of the separation we experience in our material expressions. In connecting with past and future expressions of self, with loved ones who have passed and more, it's always abundantly clear that these connections happen in that moment. The experiences are timeless. Specifically, I've been so grateful to both my past and future expressions and have been shown things that have absolutely affected and changed my life. Always, they do indeed contribute to the awakening to greater love and consciousness. Do you think we're shaping the world outwardly in time? My belief is that our most that our will most definitely has the power to create love in other incarnations. So much thanks if you're able to touch on this. It's a fun concept spiritually, but it's also impossible to make sense of it conceptually if one is super attached to causality. The reason I wanted to read this entire thing is because you may have heard me talk about Adam and Eve and how everyone seems to overlook the actual story, the actual moral of the story. They ate from the tree of knowledge and they got kicked out of paradise. Now, what is paradise? Paradise is a feeling. It's a feeling of nirvana. It's the feeling of love. It's the feeling of perfection. So they ate from the tree of knowledge and they stopped feeling heaven, right? They got in their heads and out of their hearts. They got in their heads and out of their hearts. And when I read comments like this, I look at all the the mental currency that is being spent on this topic. And it's all about running down rabbit holes in the mind as opposed to feeling love and all of its elements of love in the present. It's about going down these rabbit holes. As far as time is concerned, my belief is linear time is a construct of the physical world. And when we are not in the physical world, there is no linear time. Time is a construct of the physical world. So when I had my past life regression, I experienced physically standing on that beach, smelling the air, feeling the wind, and meeting Jeshua and having him touch me, and I had that in real time. And basically, what it seemed like my consciousness had shifted. Whereas, before thoughts would pop into my head, now when I was in the regression, the thoughts in my head were John in the room with the hypnotherapist. So it was like I had switched where my focus of consciousness was. And that would have been 2,000 years ago, right? So it really comes down to time being only linear in the physical world, but not on the other side. If it's working for you and it is bringing you to greater love and consciousness, right? And and for me, even that would be slightly overthinking it, coming to that consciousness, adding consciousness in there. I would just say, it just brings me to greater love, because the more we add on to it, that's when we start creating things like religions. That's what religions are. There's a simple premise of love, and then they've added all these things around it. This is a simple premise of love with all of these constructs of what is time and causality, and it's getting us away from the core element. My regression, the one thing that was at the end of my regression, I say, it's so simple we have a hard time understanding it. And that's really the key, is it's not about figuring it out. It's about acknowledging that it's always there. It's about being in the space with love all the time. And it's not about figuring out how to get to it and how to feel it more. It's about acknowledging it there, and then you do feel it more because it is there. But when you go down these mental pathways, you don't feel it because you've been kicked out of paradise. You've been kicked out of the feeling of it. And that to me is when I read comments like this, is exactly where I go. I'm reading this, I'm like, this is so much mental journey that they're missing the fact that they didn't have to go anywhere. It was right there with them the whole time. So that's my thought on this. I hope I hope you're not offended by that answer. That's just truly what I believe. And if this works for you, great. I respect your beliefs. It does. It would be I just could never get into that. So that's my thought on that. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. The John of New channel is solely funded by your generous donations and purchases of private readings and merchandise. To help out, go to johnofnew.com or use the donation link in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.